A lot of people would have hoped that the general public would forget about the Nirav Modi scam, but we haven't. What makes matters worse is that with every passing day, we discover more skeletons tumbling out of public sector bank closets. We understand that the PNB scam has now become much bigger than we thought it was going to be. A lot higher than the 12,000 crore rupees, as a similar scam with a similar modus operandi has now come to light. There's another scam in SBI. But the important question we should be asking right now is who's responsible for the manner in which these public sector banks are being run. And here's the interesting thing. Our Finance Minister Arun Jaitley said very clearly not long ago that regulatory authorities need to introspect, pinning the blame very clearly on the RBI. The regulatory authority in this case is the RBI. He said the RBI needs to introspect as how it allowed this sort of thing to happen. The RBI governor, Urjit Patel, has come out very clearly and said that he feels anger, hurt and pain at banking sector frauds and irregularities. He's also said that the RBI has very little regulatory power over public sector banks because the final power lies with the Finance Ministry. He's gone on to say that this sort of scam is looting our country's future because some people of the business community are in cahoots with some lenders. He said the owner of our public sector banks, which is the government, might consider making important contributions like informing itself as to what to do with the public banking system going forward because it's using scarce national financial resources. So what he's saying fundamentally is that the person who owns this bank is the government. So even if the RBI comes out and scolds these banks or sends them notices or takes action against them, they can't really do it because the person in charge is the Finance Ministry and the Finance Minister. So it's Urjit Patel versus the Finance Minister at this point. They're passing the buck. And you and I are just watching. Who's responsible for the public sector banking system? Between the RBI, who is the regulator, and the Finance Ministry, which is the owner and the main shareholder of these companies, who's responsible for our money being squandered in this irresponsible manner? Joining me on the show, J.N. Gupta, Managing Director, Stakeholders Empowerment Services, former Director of SBI, Govindra Jaitaraj, Senior Journalist and Co-Founder of India Spend, Ravindra Gupta, Joint Secretary of the All India Bank Officers Confederation, Mohan Guruswamy, Senior Economist and Chairperson at the Centre for Policy Alternatives, Sanju Verma for the BJP, Mohammad Khan for the Congress, Rajiv Mishra for the Indian Citizen. I welcome all of you to this conversation. I'm going to open up the arguments from everybody. Mr. J.N. Gupta, I'll start with you first. Who's responsible for the public sector banking sector? Is it the RBI or the Finance Ministry?
See, I would say that you can't fix the responsibility on one organization or one individual. It is a systemic issue. I would say that today Urjit Patel has spoken out, but the question is, I will ask following questions. First, did RBI not do anything in supervision because they had no power over public sector bank, or it is an afterthought? My issue is this: I may know that I do not have a power to control somebody, but if I have been given power to have an oversight, then did RBI did proper oversight over PNB yes, or other public sector bank? That is the first question. The second question is this, that if they knew that they do not have power over public sector bank, what action they have taken in last so many years, or where is the documentary trail which they have written to Finance Ministry, Government of India or somebody that look, I am handicapped, I am not able to do. Third yes, issue is this, yes, government is also responsible because the governance principle says the management and ownership should be separate. Unfortunately, in case of public sector bank, there is a blurred thing that ownership is also with the government, yes, management is also with the government. And the third question comes, the public sector banks themselves. There is no disincentive, no incentive structure. Everybody is straight, whether you are meritorious or you are normal or you are hopeless. You have all the same career path. So somewhere there is nothing like this. And fourthly, I would say that public sector bank are, today everybody is talking about public sector bank, that 10 lakh crore NPA, 15 lakh crore NPA. But who is responsible for this NPA? It is private sector, because none of the public sector banks are, none of the public sector enterprises NPA. So I would say it is, the entire system is responsible.
Yes.
All
well, unfortunately, while Mr. Gupta, when we say the entire system is responsible, that doesn't allow us any clarity in who we should be holding responsible for this and how we should fix the problem if the entire system is at fault. Mr. Ravindra Gupta, Joint Secretary, All India Bank Officers Confederation. And I just want to read out here again from Mr. Urjit Patel's statement. He said the RBI's legal powers to supervise and regulate banks are also constrained. We cannot remove directors or management of public sector banks. Mr. Gupta, RBI's hands are tied. Is the finance minister then fundamentally irresponsible?
No, vehemently we oppose this statement of the RBI governor that the powers vested to them are weaker in comparison to the private sector bank. Basically, they are vested with the powers to regulate the directors, to remove the directors, or to change the boards, or to liquidate or merge the bank, public sector bank. These are all vested to the Reserve Bank of India, and Section 12 and Section 35, 36 gives lot of powers to Reserve Bank of India at this moment. It means that they are comparing their powers that they are having in reference to the private sector bank. It is wrong, and this is basically a case of pushing towards the, indirectly pushing towards the privatization. It is not like the case. If you read the Section 12, Section 35, 36, they are vested with lot of powers to regulate the functioning of the public sector banks, and they are vested with lot of powers.
So is the RBI responsible, Mr. Gupta?
Let me complete.
Is the RBI responsible?
And basically, the RBI directors are there on the board of all public sector banks, and they are sitting over on the boards. What were they doing, and why they were silent as on date? And the Reserve Bank of India, as per their system, they have been the regulator, supervisor. And I can also quote one case. I am working in a bank now. This moment, the audit of section under 12 and the section 35 is done of the branches, of the large size branches. And earlier the Reserve Bank of India used to spend 1 month time. Now definitely they must having the lesser staff to conduct all these supervisory and audit roles, and they may be filling out doing their duties.
Okay, let me bring in Sanju Verma of the BJP. Sanju Verma, this is actually for a citizen very confusing. If something so massive has happened, 12,000 crore rupees, and we understand now it could be a lot bigger than this, and the finance ministry and the RBI governor, who should be at this point pasting together the trust of the citizen, and they're not able to reach a conclusion, and the RBI governor is saying some scathing things. He's saying this rift between the regulation of Finance Ministry and RBI, this fault line is bound to lead to tremors such as the most recent fraud. So he's suggesting that it could happen again, or more of it could happen. Why is this happening, Sanju Verma?
Faye, first things first, I have worked in the biggest, global bank like a JP Morgan, and also a blue-blooded Indian private sector bank's arm like HDFC. So speaking from personal experience, let me tell you a couple of things. You said it is the finance minister, Mr. Jaitley versus RBI. I would just like to correct you there, Faye. Mr. Jaitley has obviously said on n number of occasions post this whole thing, came into the public domain, that the RBI and the auditors are responsible. But you've not mentioned one key point. He never took the name of Urjit Patel specifically. Please note, on various public platforms, he's also said that the person who should be held culpable more than anybody else is the RBI governor under whose aegis it all started. Mind you, Raghuram Rajan was the RBI governor from September 2013 to September 2016. And the first LOU which was given by PNB was in 2011 on the 5th of March. I'm also mentioning a specific date. Now you can say, what was the BJP government doing? Because the last LOU that was given by the Punjab National Bank was on the 7th of November 2017. Here I would like to say one thing, Faye, the fact that you and me we today are discussing this is because a lot of steps have been taken by Urjit Patel. I will just make a mention of one circular. I have written exhaustively on this issue, and I would request anyone from your panel who are experts in their domain to challenge me. On the 24th of January 2018, Urjit Patel wrote to all banks that if an account is being restructured and evergreened repeatedly, even if there is the slightest of dubiousness, such accounts will be called special mention accounts and will no longer be termed as restructured accounts. It was then that the Pandora's box opened and the can of worms came out, and PNB realized that there's a fraud that was being abetted right under Raghuram Rajan's tardy nose. And that is when they reported matter to CBI on 29th January 2018.
Right.
And within 10 to 12 days, you had the CBI swinging into action. So am I trying to shove blame away? No. But under whose aegis has this entire
Okay, so
thing come
according
out
to
in
you,
open?
the RBI governor is responsible, but it's the previous RBI governor, not the current RBI governor. You're being quite benevolent, I must say, given the things that the current RBI governor has said about the finance ministry, that you are still defending him. I must acknowledge that. Anyone who wants to rebut what Sanju Verma said about Urjit Patel bringing in regulation.
You're cutting me short. I am saying Raghuram Rajan is much to be blamed for, and you've not mentioned Raghuram Rajan's name even once, Faye.
I would be very happy to rebut Ms. Sanju Verma.
No, so are you accusing me of being unfair, or are you accusing Raghuram Rajan of being responsible?
What was Raghuram? I'm accusing Raghuram Rajan of being blatantly incompetent. He was in the know of things. He could have done a lot. He simply chose to look the other way. Maybe he was studio hopping and, you know, writing his book, which we are now in hindsight beginning to realize he's busy publicizing. So let's not be very benevolent to Raghuram Rajan. I'm not saying don't point a finger at Urjit Patel, but you don't want to give Urjit Patel credit for the fact that he brought this scam into the public domain. But you want to give credit to Raghuram Rajan simply because he decided that best everything is shoved under the carpet. Are we not being unfair? Are we not being unscrupulous as citizens? Forget about our political affiliations. Why is no channel mentioning Raghuram Rajan? Why is he not giving an interview on this? And unfortunately, he's heading the Basel III committee. I'm surprised and shocked.
All right. Okay, Sanju Verma, you're monopolizing. Let me bring in other panelists as well. One second. Sanju Verma, calm down. All right, we heard you out. Govindraj Etiraj, very senior journalist who's tracked this sector for a very long time. Raghuram Rajan has had several interviews where he said, on the government, is the owner of the bank in this case. The government appoints the board members as well as the management. What is their culpability in this whole thing? I think every facet should be examined. Govindraj Etiraj, your response to Sanju Verma. Whose responsibility is it?
Faye, I think... no, I don't want to respond to her specifically because I think it's a waste of time to go on that path about which personality was smarter and which personality was not. I think what you're arguing here, if I understood correctly, is conceptually the Reserve Bank the owner of a problem like PNB, or is it the Government of India through the Ministry of Finance? So let's focus on that. That's number one. Number two, I think we have to understand that the Reserve Bank of India is at the top. The first thing is, like, whenever any scam happens or a fraud is found or discovered, you have to focus on the people who actually perpetrated it. We are in a strange situation in India where we seem to be kicking the can as up the floor, or all the way up as we can, before even finding out who are the people in between. So we've caught hold of 2 or 3 effectively clerks who let's say who signed off on the letter of credit or the letter of undertaking. There are a lot of people in between. There is the chairman of the company, or the managing director, chairman and managing director of the bank. There are a whole bunch of people in between. We've really not seen any action on those people. That's number one. So I think first let's focus on everyone within the PNB system who are culpable or guilty of doing or not doing what they should have done. Right? So that's number one. Number two, when it comes to the Reserve Bank of India and its actions, the Reserve Bank of India is supposed to act on intelligence. It's supposed to act on insights. Now, if you ask anyone in the gold, diamond and jewellery industry in the last 5 years as to who are the likely candidates for something going wrong, particularly when it comes to loan.
Please do not spew gibberish.
No. Sanju Verma, hang on.
Let me finish.
Please, Govindraj Etiraj, I'm surprised. I'm surprised. He says RBI is
finish.
supposed to act on intelligence. Excuse me, the investigative agencies
Of
are
what?
doing the needful. Gokulnath Shetty has been arrested. Rajesh Jindal has been arrested. You know, excuse me.
So
are you not
the
reading
question we have to
newspapers,
answer here,
please? You may have
Govind, is
political
that why does
affiliations.
Sanjay, you're going
why
off on
does
a,
the
you're
management
going
of
off on a
PNB
point I
still
haven't
have
even
their
made. I
jobs?
mean,
We
what are you
have
talking about?
arrested today Kaustubh Ray.
I think we cannot debate this way.
No, no, one
Shivaji
second.
Panja. We've arrested
Yes.
Anup
One
Prakash
second,
Garg,
one second, one second.
ex-director
Sanju
of
Verma,
Andhra
Sanju
Bank.
Verma, Sanju
What are
Verma.
you trying to
Why,
say that
the
the
question
CBI
that
is
we
not
have to
doing its
answer at
job?
this point
That's
is
your
that why
innuendo.
does the chairman,
Please do
managing
not
director of
expose your
PNB
political
still have his
affiliations.
job? Why has he
Raghuram
not
Rajan
been
needs to be
removed?
taken to
And why
task.
haven't we questioned the
And
board of
Govinda
directors?
Lecturer is
Faye, can I finish the second part?
Yes,
Faye,
yes, please,
Faye,
please go ahead. Govind, please go ahead.
Faye, I think if you can ask your other panelists to calm down a little bit. Let me finish and then they're most welcome to take off. When I say intelligence, I wasn't meaning investigative intelligence. What I meant was in the diamond or gold and jewelry industry, it was very clear to most players, and this I'm saying as a journalist, that there were a few players whose debt condition or the condition of their bank debts was in doubt or in question. So any bank manager, and they do this all the time, and any banker should know, you're always trying to find out what's happening, which are the likely people who are going to be in trouble, which industries are in trouble. Hang on.
Have you as a journalist ever questioned the banking regulation?
No, let him finish. Sanju Verma, you're being
What is the
unfair.
connection?
Sanju
But
Verma,
there's no
you're not
connect-
letting him finish.
Rajan.
Sanju
But
Verma,
what's
you're
the
not
connection?
letting him finish. You're being unfair. There are plenty of panelists. You have to let him speak, Sanju.
The people,
Okay,
the
calm
person
down,
those
calm
have
down,
been
calm
compared
down.
at
This
this
is not
moment,
that kind
those
of
were
channel.
outsourced.
Surprised.
Those were outsourced.
This is what political
And past you go by
affiliations
the
can do.
So let me
government of the
finish.
Reserve Bank of
So
India.
if the Reserve
they
Bank
were
had a good
indigenous
idea
persons,
of who the people were or which industries
And
were in
they-
trouble,
they never
the
had the
sense of
feel of the power
oversight
of this country.
or focus
And there
would
is
have
a
been much
comparison
stronger
that
than what
Sanjay Verma is
it
doing
was
of the
today.
previous Reserve Bank
You know,
governor.
I think this is a travesty because I can't hear any of you. I can't understand what you're saying, and that makes it very
Here
difficult to
we are
then
waiting
moderate
for
the
the
debate.
regulatory functions of the-
allow me, Govind, I heard what you said. Let me take this to Mohan Guruswamy. Mohan Guruswamy, if you could hear what Govindraj Etraj was saying very clearly about the RBI's regulatory responsibility. And I'm going to go back to my fundamental question because that's where I want to keep this debate. Whose responsibility is this? Because see, while we might have arrested some lower level employees, Mr. Guruswamy, the management of PNB still has their jobs. The board is still in function. Nobody has asked them any questions.
Absolutely. The fact is that the RBI is not the owner of these banks. The RBI is a regulator. It's supposed to do a regulation job. And the RBI is also a creature of the government. So there's a little dichotomy here. It's not a totally standalone body. And then the government owns the banks, the big banks at least. Government appoints the directors, government promotes them, government decides who's going to be where. So the government has effective control. This control is not with the RBI. It is stated very clearly in the regulations that the RBI cannot do this. The government will do it. Now it's for the government to decide what it wants to do. The fact is that the fraud took place. I don't think the directors of the Punjab National Bank were complicit or knew about this. They came to know about it very late. So you had a systems failure which took place because somebody willfully concealed evidence, and it didn't even go to the management of the bank. So now you've got to see who was derelict in their duties. For that you need a clear and open investigation. I don't think you could start blaming each other right now. The RBI and the government of India have been in bed for a long time. The only time when they started acting a little differently was when Rajan was the governor, and then he started taking, cracking the whip on NPS and things like that, started flagging it off. And Urjit Patel has today taken it to a new level by saying that the government doesn't let us act, which is also true. The government is in full control of the RBI. Government even has tried to remove the powers to put interest rates and all those things from the RBI, to take it out to a separate committee. So, government also has been meddling around. And I think the system will work when the institutions leave each other alone. Government, we know the government patronizes people, all governments patronize, all politicians patronize, and because they get patronized, they get money. This is a regime, is not connected to the regime. It is a continuous thing. All these guys who got those 8 lakh NPAs or 9 lakh NPAs have been having this NPAs for a long time. through the regimes. And each regime comes and acts the same way. So I think to blame each other is like, two thieves falling out over the booty. And now the government has to act instead of Mr. Jaitley getting up on TV and saying that, RBI is responsible, they didn't do their job. He used to say the system failed. System failed and therefore we're all responsible, and I as finance minister am more so responsible, and Mr. Modi as prime minister is more so responsible, and therefore we're going to set it right. They're not talking about setting it right. Like you said, the chairman of the Punjab National Bank has not been called, the executive director has not been called, the CBI is focusing on a couple of AGM level people. So, this is a cover-up is underway because the complicity of the political leadership of this country will come out. I'm not talking about this leadership or that leadership. Political leadership as a whole institution will come out.
Right, Mohammad Khan of the Congress, and then Sanju Verma can respond to both of you. Mohammad Khan of the Congress.
No, I don't want to.
Mohammad Khan of the Congress, make your opening statement, please.
Well, I agree with Guruswamy Saab's closing sentiment there. The blame lies with the Prime Minister, the blame lies with the Finance Minister, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why the RBI director is absolutely correct. The RBI governor is absolutely correct in being hurt and upset with this government. This is a government that this government is the one that curtailed his powers, barely consulted him when they announced demonetization. This is the government that barely consulted him, bypassed him when they were issuing circulars on behalf of banks to link them to Aadhaar. So please, now when they turn around and put the onus on him, then I think he is well within his rights to take a step away and expose them for what they are. I think he's gone a long way towards saying that, look, it's not just me alone. Number three, look, yes, Prime Minister Modi last year, and since Ms. Verma is such an expert on banking affairs, I remember he started this Better Banking Board or whatever it was called under Vinod Rai, and Vinod Rai wrote this beautiful verbose letter about how Prime Minister Modi has given him enormous autonomy to function. The purpose of that board, in its very own words, was vigilance over public sector banks. That was its exact job. Why did it fail? What was it doing? And finally the Prime Minister on the first day in Parliament steps out and talks about NPAs. He's been talking about NPAs since 2014. There's a draft law in 2017, and thereafter, what does he proceed to do? All of this happened on his watch. When you centralize power to this extent, then by God, when you take the bouquets, you must also be responsible for the brickbats. That's all.
Faye, can I
please? Govind will make a quick statement and then I'll come back to you, Sanju.
No,
Govind, very quickly.
Faye, I think, Faye, No, Faye, I think I'll tell you what, I think we're making a mistake again. The problem is when you have, let's say, people from the business world and the political world in the same debate, you're really going on two completely different streams. So the politics, I mean, I have no,
so Govind, respond to this. All right, Govind, respond to this. I like to straddle both worlds, but if the RBI governor, Govind, 1 second, if the RBI governor has very clearly, Govind, said that when we have a private bank that has violated any of the regulation, we immediately send them a notice or we immediately take action. But in the case of a public sector bank, we are unable to do so because the owner in this case is the government of India.
Why I disagree.
So where does that leave the RBI?
I think. No, Faye, let me finish here. I think the Reserve Bank clearly has greater responsibility. It has a lot of powers, and I think in this case, it's pointing to issues which are not so relevant. By saying that I cannot throw out a bank director or the chairman of a bank, yes, it cannot throw them out unless it has consultation with the central government. But I don't think at any point it went to anyone and said, I want to throw out the chairman of Punjab National Bank or any other bank, at least not in the recent past. So there's no point in talking about issues which were never on the table in any case. So I think in that sense the Reserve Bank is also ducking the issue. And I'm referring to Arijit Patel specifically. I think the issue, let's come back to where we were. We said, okay, a fraud has happened. The investigation is on. Who are the people who are being hauled up for it? Right? At this point of time, it's not clear to me that everyone in the chain is being hauled up.
Sanju Verma,
no, it's not a monologue, it's a dialogue with the person who's
I'm really surprised that you're constantly interrupting him. He's on your side. Right. Govind, please finish.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Okay, so can I continue?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So, Faye, Yeah, Faye, so the point is that in this case, I feel that the Reserve Bank of India governor needs to take greater accountability for what has happened at Punjab National Bank. Having said that, I don't think, we can't make it sound like between Raghuram Rajan and Urjit Patel, they were sitting and signing LOUs. I mean, that's what the political discussion is sounding like. Or the Prime Minister of India was, calling up Nirav Modi and telling him to go and collect money, which I think is making the whole argument ridiculous and specious. We're talking about a fraud which has happened at a certain level. We first need to focus on what systems failed at that level, figure out the chain of accountability and fix it.
Journalist to keep on and on and on.
Okay, I'll tell you what, Sanju Verma, first of all, Govindraj Etiraj is not masquerading as a journalist.
What are you masquerading as?
He has been a journalist for many, many decades, and every member of this panel, including yourself, have been picked specifically for your personal experience and your expertise. I will thank you to respect every member of my panel. Just because you want to speak, it does not allow you to make personal comments or disregard the experience and the expertise of anybody on this panel. Do I make myself clear?
It works both ways. It works both ways, Faye. It works both ways. It works both ways.
Rajiv Mishra, go ahead.
फिर मैं जो संजू वर्मा जी को देख रहा हूं तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि वो राइट वे में डिस्कशन करना चाहती हैं कि नहीं, आइदर या तो वो डिस्कशन को एकदम डाइवर्ट करना चाहती हैं। मेरा पॉइंट फिर ऐसा है कि आरबीआई और ये बीजेपी गवर्नमेंट, इन दोनों के बीच में आज जो स्थिति दिखाई दे रही है वो बिल्कुल उसी तरीके से दिखाई दे रही है जैसे बीजेपी और कांग्रेस एक दूसरे को किसी बात के लिए कोसते नजर आते हैं। मैं बोलता हूं बोथ आर द सेम विंग। फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर के अंतर्गत ही आरबीआई आता है और आरबीआई के पास भी अपने कुछ गाइडलाइंस हैं, उसके कुछ पावर्स हैं। मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर ने भी 2014 में जब फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर नए तरीके से बदले गए, अरुण जेटली साहब फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर बने, उस समय में कम से कम उनको एनपीए पता था कि 3 लाख करोड़ से ज्यादा का एनपीए है, एक बहुत बड़ा अमाउंट उनको एनपीए मालूम था। उनको इस पर रिसर्च करना चाहिए था कि आखिर ये देश का इतना बड़ा अमाउंट किधर लॉस हो गया, किधर कहां कैसे इसमें कहां डिफॉल्ट रह गया, कहां कमी रह गई, कौन सी नीति में हमको सुधार करना चाहिए जिससे हम आगे हमारा एनपीए राइज न करे और इस तरह के लोन जो फ्रॉड तरीके से लोगों के द्वारा लिए गए हैं और बाद में लौटाए नहीं गए हैं उस पर कैसे बैन लगेगा, इस पर लेकर के फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर और आरबीआई गवर्नर जो तत्कालीन आरबीआई गवर्नर थे, इनके बीच में कितनी मीटिंग हुई, उसको लेकर कौन सी पॉलिसी बनी, ये कुछ नहीं मालूम। आज जब पीएनबी घोटाला जब सामने आया है तब उर्जित पटेल की कोशिश यह है कि वो फाइनेंस डिपार्टमेंट पे डाले और फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर की कोशिश यह है कि वो आरबीआई गवर्नर पे डाले। लेकिन मेरा ये मानना है कि ये पूरी सिस्टम जो है, आप इसको सिस्टम फेल्योर मत मानिए, ये सिस्टम सपोर्ट है। ये सिस्टम सपोर्ट है जो वैसे लोगों को सपोर्ट करता है। आप मेरे को बताओ, एक कंपनी जो फॉरफिटेड होती है, उसकी प्रॉपर्टी फॉरफिटेड होती है लोन नहीं चुकाने के कारण, वही व्यक्ति वही डायरेक्टर एक दूसरी कंपनी का फॉर्मेशन करता है और उस नाम से आपके यहां से लोन ले लेता है। ये कैसा सिस्टम चल रहा है इस देश में?
Or the thing that we must point out in response to what Rajiv Mishra has said, let's not. Point now? Yes, I'll come to you. Exactly, I'm coming to you, Sanju Verma. Let's not forget that these banks, when you say public sector banks, they're running with our money. We own these banks. This shareholder money that we're talking about is taxpayer money. It's coming out of the budget of this country. This money should be used to run the country. So if someone is using our money to run banks, we would want them to use it more responsibly, which means that the management, the chairperson, the board of directors, anyone who's signing the audit needs to be held accountable for this colossal failure. Who is going to be held accountable and who's going to do it? Who's going to bell that cat? Sanju Verma, go ahead.
Okay, Faye, I want to first make it very clear, this is not about Raghuram Rajan versus Urjit Patel. As some on your panel with political affiliations would like us to believe. The fact is,
you made it about
why
Raghuram
are we
Rajan?
so scared of fixing accountability? Why are you, Faye, let me complete. I did not interrupt you, Faye.
Go ahead.
Let me complete, Faye. Why are you all
interrupted
Faye,
everyone else.
You have these citizen-centric debates, and I love watching your shows. Why is it, Faye, that till date you have not raised Raghuram Rajan's accountability on this whole matter? Why have you not once bothered to get him to come on the line and interview him and ask him what was he doing between September 2013 and September 2014.
Has the finance ministry called Raghuram Rajan and asked him what he was doing between that period?
Minister, let me say one thing. The Congress spokesperson should not take the moral high ground given that Mr. P. Chidambaram was using the FIPB and allowing Karti Chidambaram to use it
you're not answering the question.
Personal property.
You're not answering the question.
All
right, calm down.
Where is the deficit? Where is the shortcoming? Let me.
All right, calm down. I'm running out of time. I'm simply pointing this out. The majority shareholder, production control room, if I may say this please to my audience, the majority shareholder in a public sector bank is the government of India using taxpayer money. These are Sanju Verma and Ravindra Gupta ji, my audience cannot hear me and that's really upsetting. Would you please calm down?
Workman employees, officer employee,
do not say you're a journalist. If you have
all right, let me go to Mr. Mohan Guruswamy. Mr. Guruswamy, the owner of public sector banks is the government of India through taxpayer money, which means that the government of India, and in this particular case the finance ministry, appoints the board of directors and the management of the bank. So would it be fair to say that the finance minister is the chairperson's boss? And if the chairperson does a bad job, it's the finance minister who will have to call up that chairperson and ask him what was going on?
Not only is the finance minister expected to do that and keep abreast of that, you've got a whole hierarchy in the Department of Banking, deputy secretaries, joint secretaries, secretaries, special secretaries, a whole lot of them who have got assignments, who have got portfolios, who have got banks thrust under them, and they should be asking these questions. The point is there's a nice cushy deal going on here between the finance ministry, starting right at the top, where loans are issued out, favors are dispensed, positions are sold, and so, this is how the system has been working. I have been in that ministry, I have worked closely at the top, and I have seen how it functions. Chairmanships are sold, executive directorships are sold, loans are sanctioned, which shouldn't be sanctioned. Restructuring meetings are called, and instead of restructuring companies, we end up giving more money to those companies, and that's how we got some of these gigantic defaulters today. When we were supposed to restructure them 2 or 3 times, each time they got more money. Why? You ask the politicians, ask the bureaucrats. I don't want to name any names, but there are everybody across. The system works that way. And today they're all scrambling to avoid contagion. They can't avoid contagion. They're all part of it. They're all responsible for it. They've all partaken in that fruit and they enjoyed the benefits of it. We know how it works. Now we've seen cases of, children of highly placed officials being held, kept on retainers as legal advisors to some of these delinquent borrowers. We've seen all this unraveling.
Right.
And you'll see more of that.
इसमें मैं एक बात और जोड़ देना चाहता हूं, इसमें मैं एक बात और जोड़ देना चाहता हूं कि जब नोटबंदी की बात आई थी, तब तो ये सवाल नहीं उठा था कि नोटबंदी का पावर किसके पास है, फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर के पास है, प्रधानमंत्री के पास है या आरबीआई के पास है। उस वक्त तो ये सवाल नहीं उठा। आज जब करप्शन इतने बड़े लेवल पर सामने आया है तो हर कोई अपनी अपनी जिम्मेदारी को एक दूसरे पे डालने की कोशिश कर रहा है। उस वक्त कहां गई थी आरबीआई ये कहने को कि प्राइम मिनिस्टर के पास पावर नहीं था कि वो रातों रात नोटबंदी का अनाउंसमेंट कर सकते, वो सारा पावर आरबीआई के पास था, या प्राइम मिनिस्टर को यह कहने का अधिकार था?
आरबीआई बोर्ड ने नोटबंदी को क्लियर किया था।
नहीं, आरबीआई बोर्ड ने नोटबंदी को क्लियर किया तो उनको अनाउंस करना चाहिए था ना। फिर अगर आपके पास सारा पावर है और गवर्नमेंट का इसमें कोई रोल नहीं है तो व्हाई प्राइम मिनिस्टर?
They were locked up in a room and asked to sign and not let out of the room. They were locked up in a room and asked to approve and not let out of the room till the Prime Minister made his announcement.
Mr. Jain Gupta, I'm going to give the last word here to Mr. Jain Gupta because he was very diplomatic when he made the opening statements. He said no one person is responsible, it's a collective responsibility. But Mr. Gupta, what happens to average Indian citizens who are not... But let me finish my question. What happens to average Indian citizens when they see the RBI governor and the finance minister pass the buck in this manner instead of saying, oh God, we've had a terrible thing happen, let's quickly figure out what went wrong so it doesn't happen again? This leaves us with very little faith.
First of all, I was not at all diplomatic. I was very straight that everybody is responsible. You cannot shift the responsibility from A to B or to C. The issue is, I agree with Mohan very clearly that entire system is compromised when he says the loans are given. If you see the loans, I was also a banker. I would never touch those balance sheet with the barge pole, but loans have been given. Now, as an average citizen, I feel cheated. I feel cheated because I have put faith in banking system, and now the banking system has failed. Why? One, because of the bank themselves, because of the intervention of the ministry, and failure for RBI. I am asking one simple question when RBI says that it is responsibility of I don't have a power. First is, did RBI ever know what is happening in the banking system? Whether it was brought into any inspection report, whether any note was prepared, and whether any information was shared with the Punjab National Bank that your banking has this problem? Nothing was done. So that means there was a failure of oversight. Now, whether the failure was oversight by real oversight or it was by complicity, we do not know. The issue is very clear. I, as a regulator, have failed. I, as a regulator of the regulator, that is ministry, have failed. I, as a banker, have failed. We have not been able. Now we do not know whether it was a corruption or whether.
Yes. Yes, I understand. So what Mr. Gupta is saying is very clear. Hello? He's saying that the chairperson's boss in this case, like Mr. Guruswamy pointed out, is the finance ministry.
There is a need to plug the hole into the governance.
Yes.
That is the basic issue as on date. There is a need to plug the holes in the governance.
And who's going to do it, Mr. Gupta?
Moreover, there is a need for a holistic audit of the entire banking system. Maybe the manpower shortage and manpower shortages, all the levels, even the boards are not complete, and the RBI is also short of the staff.
One point I'd like to make.
I think are also short of staff.
Okay.
And moreover,
it was the Narendra Modi-led government. So Sanju Verma says you've passed the NPA ordinance, but Sanju Verma, we... Right.
See, workman director used to be there. And the officer director used to be there. The directors from the all walk of life need to be strengthened in the banking system.
And powers to take penal action against willful defaulters, something which Manmohan Singh and P. Chidambaram failed to do for 10 long years. Please give this government credit for passing the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, operationalizing the Benami Transaction Act.
Mrs. Verma, और इस ऑर्डिनेंस के बाद नीरव मोदी भाग जाते हैं और इस ऑर्डिनेंस के बाद नीरव मोदी भाग जाते हैं केस से.
I want to point out, no wonder nobody wants to have this conversation in Parliament because it obviously is a really ruckus.
Who brought the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code? For 28 years,
here's the question. Mr. Guruswamy said that the management of PNB and the board of directors report to the... One second. To the finance ministry. Who does the RBI governor report to? Does the RBI governor have a boss within the system? Or is he completely autonomous and he has no bosses at all? Govindraj Etraj, who does he report to? Who can pick up the phone and call the RBI governor and say, hey, what's going on? Why have we lost this much money?
Of course, it's the Ministry of Finance, but the Reserve Bank of India governor is not a manager or a vice president in some organization. He has considerable powers, and that's what I've been arguing. Yes. I think he has sufficient powers to do a lot of things. Maybe he doesn't have some powers, which he has rightly pointed out. I don't think any of those powers were at question in this particular case of fraud that we were talking about. Right? We were discussing the fraud in PNB, not the larger NPA problem. So if in the case of fraud, I think the buck stops very much within the PNB first, and then it goes to the RBI, because clearly they didn't anticipate it. They didn't anticipate the nature of fraud, the complexity of fraud, and obviously they've sort of allowed it to happen, even despite the fact, like I was trying to say earlier, but I could not, that most people in the diamond industry knew that there was something cooking or there was something fishy amongst at least some of the big borrowers. Right? So anyone who could have, either the bank or the Reserve Bank should have known that they ought to have been looking at some of those balance sheets.
All right, Govind, quick one-word answer. If the RBI governor is not doing his job correctly, given his considerable powers, whose responsibility is it to pull him up about it?
No, I think the flow of power is very clear. The Reserve Bank clearly works under the Government of India and the Sovereign of India. So the Reserve Bank of India reports either to the Finance Minister or someone above that. But yes, I mean there is a political responsibility, but that comes much later. I don't think this issue needs to be kicked all the way up right now.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Thank you, Govind. We're going to wrap up this discussion here because I've completely run out of time. It just boils down to one thing. I'm sorry, Mr. Guruswamy, we'll have a follow-up conversation, but I really have run out of time at this point. It boils down to one thing, that we've had 12,000 crore rupees of our money stolen from our country, from a specific bank, and we're discovering now that more money could have been stolen from that same bank. The chairperson and the board of directors of that bank have to be questioned in a stronger manner than has been done so far. Who's going to do it? We have the RBI governor who's responsible for regulating this industry, turning around and saying that he doesn't have all of the powers. Experts on our panel disagree. Whether it is this RBI governor or the previous RBI governor, banking experts say the RBI governor and the RBI has the power to regulate and has the power to take action. So saying that you're hurt and that you're concerned and that you're angry is not good enough, Mr. Patel. On the other hand, the bank's management reports to the finance ministry and to the various bureaucrats in the finance ministry and to the minister himself. And if there was something going on that is amiss, why haven't the finance ministry bureaucrats and the minister himself summoned the management of the bank and asked them tough questions? Why does it seem like we're satisfied at this point with low-level officials pretending like a low-level official can issue loans or letters of understanding for 12,000 crore rupees and nobody can find out about it? It doesn't seem right. It doesn't smell right. So it might be fun at this point for the ministry and the RBI to kick the puck between themselves and pretend that neither is responsible. I'm sorry, but you both are. And you both failed. And at some point, someone's going to have to take responsibility, because we're not going to forget about this. We're going to keep bringing it up. And we'll bring in as many expert voices as we can to allow our audience to make up their minds about who failed India and why a country that has a third of its population going to bed without dinner and still hungry lost that much money. Thanks for watching.